It's almost Christmas. You can tell very Christmassy. Got the Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball baubles there.
I tried really hard. If you have look closely, it's just the orange paint just didn't quite hack it.
You know, this is probably a credit to you. I actually thought you'd bought on first glance. I actually thought you'd bought Dragon Ball baubles from somewhere.
It was my art project last year for my family.
So, in honor of Christmas,
we're
going to go back to the pre-Christmas.
Well, I was going to say we did have a whole thing lined up today with a friend of the podcast, Tim, fellow historian.
He was going to explain in great depth Christmas, wasn't it?
Yes.
What's Christmas even mean?
Well, I have absolutely no idea. I wish there was some sort of indication in the name Christ Mass, but unfortunately, Tim couldn't be here. Well, I don't know. And so we're just going to have to go without it today. Unfortunately, and I quote, Tim was trapped in a tesseract by an immortal wizard. I wanted to say that with a straight face, but I guess no. So I've had to dig a little bit deeper. So without knowing what Christmas is all about, maybe we can go back to a holiday that shares a similar spot on the calendar.
Yeah, so basically we're talking about something that is not at all related to Christmas, but except in some things that it is similar.
Yeah.
Cool.
So before Santa Claus with his gifts and reindeer.
And his big beard.
And his big beard, right? Before Coca-Cola did that whole thing.
And all that stuff with the children. We won't talk about that, but... Oh no, that was the Catholics. Sorry.
Before the Santa's workshop and the industrial production line that kind of reeks of 19th century industrial revolution.
Yeah, I wonder if Martin Luther, the Reformation guy, if he had in his mind, if there was a North Pole like production line of making handcrafted wooden toys for children.
We say, I think in medieval Europe they were not in Yule. They were not thinking of the Ford production line.
Right.
Before Krampus, the German Santa that kidnapped children, tortured them, chopped them up, boiled them alive for being naughty. Before Saint Nicholas, with his there's a bunch of poor people and he's like allegedly doesn't want to sort of embarrass them, but sort of drops a couple of gold coins down the chimney and just happens to land in a stocking or socks that were sort of drying out over the hearth.
Yeah. Did you include the Dutch one?
What did you guys do to each other?
Well, I'm pretty sure the Dutch, it was called Sinterklaas. I don't know what he did, but I assume it involved clogs or some sort of like sweet, like licorice or something.
I bet there's still a twist of the Klaus German thing there as well. But if you're naughty, he's going to whip you with sticks. Before Jesus himself, the living God.
Yeah, God on earth, yeah.
We had Saturnalia, which was Roman Christmas, but not really.
Saturnalia. Is that like named after Saturn? Or is that...
It is the festival of Saturn.
Is that going to be later in the reading?
It's messy, but we'll get there.
Okay, so the day of Saturn.
The day of Saturn.
Saturday.
I guess it is. Sort of like Thursday's Thor's Day.
And Wednesday is...
No one knows. Hump Day. Saturnalia was a yearly festival for the Romans, sort of that pagan winter solstice kind of thing. It went for a whole week. Eventually, I guess, sort of became Christmas as we've sort of gone through. But it's God of Saturn, the god Saturn, sorry, and the Greek equivalent was Chronos.
Yeah.
So it's when the sun's lowest in the sky. It's sort of the whole festival's about sort of egging the sun to come back. Like, come on,
Do it.
do it now. It's sort of about rebirth and sort of an inversion of order, the natural order of things. And I suppose if you think back in the day, like you have a really good, you get into spring, you put the work in, you have your summer, right, and then you put a lot of stuff away, during the autumn, to last through the winter months, and you sort of get to the coldest, darkest. You just don't have lights. You're running on less than 12 hours sort of daylight. Probably not in the Mediterranean actually, but it still would suck, right? And then you realize that sort of like the winter solstice, we actually have enough acorns to last the winter. Let's have a massive piss off and just celebrate being alive.
So this is because most cultures had or have a like some sort of festival on the winter solstice, either directly commemorating that, like it's just commemorating the solstice.
Yeah.
It's like it's the solstice, let's party.
Yeah.
Or they have something, a festival for some other reason, but it's on the solstice.
Yeah, I mean, you chuck a god in there or two, but I mean, it's pretty easy to see, like, you've got a summer solstice and a winter solstice. There are easy points in the year where people are like, yeah, the sun's the highest in the sky. It's the lowest, and we're just going to get merry. And
they had all the calculations. They knew exactly when it was and when it was
absolutely
when it was meant to be.
I mean, like the Roman calendar is a little bit different to ours, but for example, just an easy one off the top of my head. And this has always kind of pissed me off a bit as well. Like December, deck.
Yeah.
The 10th month. Well, it's not. That's because, you got humble Julius Caesar chucking July and, Augustus,
Yeah.
in the middle. But, they had it all worked out, and, well, it worked for them anyway. And actually, this thing I was listening to today, and it's completely irrelevant. But sometimes the Romans had up to like 200 days a year that were just holidays, because they didn't have their Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 like we do. There was just kind of work, and then
it was just seasons.
But then you'd have the Senate or eventually the Emperor sort of come and be like, yeah, it's going to be a holiday for the next 3 weeks, and everyone's like, woo! What's it for? Jupiter.
Yeah.
But I have a quote from Saturn himself.
Oh, so
Right.
this is a quote from the former king of the gods.
Yeah. During my week, the serious is barred. No business is allowed. Drinking and being drunk, noise and games and dice, appointing of kings and festing of slaves, singing naked, clapping of tremulous hands, and occasional dunking of corded faces in icy water. Such are the functions over which I preside.
The Romans would have loved that,
So,
especially like not appointing kings. That would have been music to their ears. They hated a king.
well, because Dad's my canary with a lot of this thing. So if I can get a chuckle out of him with this stuff, I'm like, yeah, it's probably going to be okay then. I mentioned with him, like, because there's the appointing of kings. I had to sort of like come in and go, the reason, because you've got the inversion of the natural order thing, because they're like so up the idea of republic, and you're like, death to tyrants. It's like, it's this 1 week of the year. It's like, yeah, king. Basically, for the whole week, everyone's just sort of maggoted and just eating a lot of food.
Yeah.
Right. Which
Pretty standard.
pretty
Roman
standard
behavior.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, like, there's a week between like Christmas and New Year's. It's not that far removed,
Yeah. It's pretty standard Australian behavior. You're anyone that is not getting massively drunk between Christmas and and New Year's is they're missing out
It's
on
like,
an ancient tradition.
it's like the 1 week of the year where I'm like, everyone else is just like me.
This is my world all the time.
Welcome to my world. It's funny. I think last year I was talking to my mate Marlo. He's a French chap, French gentleman, if there is such a thing. And he's just like, yeah, no, Australian Christmas is bullshit. Like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, in Europe, it's cold, you can't go outside, it's dark, and so you stay in with your family and you eat a lot of food and you drink a lot because there's nothing else to do. Whereas Australian Christmas, it's hot, it's not actually all that comfortable being that full and
Yeah.
in the sun, and you can drink, but he's just like, you guys don't actually celebrate real Christmas.
I'd agree with that.
I have no argument.
I think for most Australians, our Christmas, it's much more like this Roman holiday in that it's like, it's a holiday, woo! Time off. We can go watch the cricket or whatever.
Knock off on the 19th of December, come back to work on the 6th of January.
Go down to the beach for a few weeks. And then you go, what's it all for? And it's like, Christmas, family or something. I don't know, something like that. Woo!
Tim hasn't told us.
Yeah. I called Tim, but he was he declined the call, so I
trapped in a tesseract or an oil painting. So gambling, generally speaking, in Rome was kind of frowned upon a little bit. I don't know how that came about, but people apparently got really stoked when Saturnalia rolled around because it was like, it's on, baby, and they're just playing dice games, which I think they're referred to as dice. But for the sake of this episode, with a little historical just editorial, dice games means like D&D, like Dungeons and Dragons.
I don't think they were playing D&D. Somehow.
In my version of the story.
Oh, and I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It just says dice games. I'm like, well, I know what that means, but it'd be funny if it meant this.
Julie sees up in goal and he's like, I got plus to attack.
It's like, oh, rats, I rolled a 3 on charisma. I failed.
There's the Rubicon. +4 attack. The die has been cast.
Hurt my cheeks. Anyway, these guys, they, everyone's sort of like, really, they're drinking, they're having fun, they're playing D&D. But instead of necessarily, because not everyone has money and stuff to spend, and necessarily, the whole bread and circus kind of welfare thing that they had going, they which is kind of like, apparently the big thing was to bet like nuts, like, I don't know what kind of nuts, but like peanuts, for example. It'd be like, it's like, oh no, well, I guess here's a handful of peanuts for you. And you're like, oh, you took my peanuts. Double or nothing.
You cleaned me out.
Snake eyes. Freedmen, like freed slaves, year round. Like, they weren't citizens necessarily, but they were like just sort of people hanging out in Rome.
Yeah.
And I lost it. Like, slaves had, I think they had tattoos on their face, sort of from distance. You're like, yeah, you filthy slave. Right. But like freedmen, they wore little funny red hats.
And would they have also had the tattoo?
I guess, but the distinction is like, we've got the tattoo, you don't have laser surgery, sort of laser removal yet, but then you put on the red hat.
They turned it into like a dolphin or something.
Just like a cover up. But they had the little funny red hats. So you can be like, oh, you're not a filthy slave, you're just a stinky freed one, But because you had this inversion of the normal, cosmic norms or whatever, slaves and other servants were permitted to wear the little funny red hats as well. And the masters of the slaves, just for shits and gigs, would chuck them on as well. So everyone's wearing funny red hats. Sound familiar? Coca-Cola. Like every other day, obviously, the servant is serving the master,
Yeah.
the person they're employed by. But during this week, there's sort of this little cheeky thing where the master might,
Get him some wine or something.
yeah, there's a bit of wine and like, oh, now I'm serving you, and sort of, oh, it's the inversion of the natural order.
Yeah, isn't this so silly?
Yeah. And obviously within reason, because like if you had slave or someone sort of like, yeah, now I'm the master, psh, 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 you'd be like, nah, this is it's over, mate. Come on, you just go back into usual chattel slavery, sort of. No, you're in the other room now, and yeah, he just wasn't playing the game anymore. It's like, no, we've had our fun. Come on, in the back room. Another little fun thing the citizens did was they, it wasn't for everyone, but you'd give a gift to everyone that you know.
Right.
So I don't know. So
If you're a slave, you know a lot of people though, because you're doing your master's bidding. You're sort of going all over the joint.
I kind of imagine it was less like what gifts does a slave have to,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So you just probably, they're not the ones participating in this tradition. It's probably more the citizens.
Right.
So like, I don't know if it's the same as now, like if it is the case that, people tend to have a circle of about, 10 or 20 sort of close people, and then you've got like 100 acquaintances. It's probably not that much, but it'd be like going door to door with your neighbors and sort of dropping off these little wax presents or these little metal trinkets, and like, there you go, buddy. But there's a fun little detail of it being like, if you got someone a particularly nice present, the next year you were socially obligated to match that.
So it was like this arms race of present, just escalated year on year.
You're like, well, I'm doing well now, but I don't know where I'm going to be next year, so I'll invest in my neighbors today. But whether or not that's it's just a fun little present giving. They also had a which is very anti-Roman, but sort of in the spirit of the inversion of reality. They elected or pronounced a king of Saturnalia, which hilariously was usually like the village drunk or the simpleton, right? Like someone who's like suffering terribly from what we'd probably call, I don't know, Down syndrome or whatever today. The whole community is just like, yeah, and you're the king of Saturnalia. And, they'd give him a little crown and, put him up on the, chair for the whole week. And he's just like, yay. And if he told you had to do something, obviously within reason, you had to do it. So you can imagine everyone's sort of having a lot to drink, having fun. It's a whole week long sort of piss up. And you've got the village idiot with the crown sitting there. It's like, sing me a song. He's like, oh, rats.
Got me.
Oh, I'm going to sing a song. Or he's like, do a funny dance. And like, oh, I'm doing a jig just for the king, and everyone's happy and sort of having a bit of laugh.
Sounds fun.
Honestly, it sounds really fun. I guess the only other, because there's not actually a huge amount about generally sort of the practice of Saturnalia, because it was so ubiquitous for so many 100 years that the doco thing that I was watching was kind of mentioned that there's a lot of people that refer to what they did on Saturnalia, but there's not actually a description of kind of everything and what it was about and all that stuff.
Which, kind of like ancient battles, it's like I was there and I fought at this battle and we locked horns or something, and it's like, yeah, but how did you lock horns? Like what?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
So you listen to this hour and 20-minute doco on it, and then I'm like, okay, well, I'll just sort of skim through the wiki and see what it's. And it was just, there was nothing missed. I'm like, okay, so that tells me. I know wiki is not but it was like, so that's kind of all there is.
It's our main source of research.
Sometimes. It's funny to think of in that context of, so if it's just a bunch of sources that we've pulled it from, each one of these activities are probably one of those sources being like, and this is what I did this year.
Yeah.
You know, and
Had a
that's
great time. I put a red hat on.
yeah. And the last thing I've got here is apparently the brave, honourable, the great, unblemished Emperor Nero.
Yeah. Known for his moral virtue.
Yep. It's funny you should say that. 1 year, and I'm guessing it was a particularly rough year because he felt like he wanted to give back. He apparently paid hundreds, right? There's like hundreds of prostitutes, got them all together, gave them a heap of money, and just set them loose in the forum. Just like, off you go. Do what you do best. Get out of here.
Yeah, it's pretty magnanimous. He's giving the people what they want.
Well, apparently you've got to, you know, sort of, I don't know, the elite or something like, oh, well, you know, this wasn't all that great. But then you've got the working man going, yeah! Merry Saturnalia! And a Happy New Year!
So some of this stuff
Mm.
sort of seems to marry up with, you know, modern or the Christian Christmas. I'm not sure about the prostitute one. I've never seen anyone doing that at Christmas time.
No.
Or even hundreds of people doing it.
It's more of a private thing.
Yeah. But, you know, the giving of presents, wearing red hats. What was some of the other stuff? The slave master thing's not really a thing Christians do.
No, but there is, like, I've heard in like medieval Europe, there's I can't remember the exact term. You forget like how Romanized, sort of like the Germans and like, you know, the barbarians kind of were at certain points, because there is a, you know, kind of like the jester almost. There is a tradition around Yule of sort of like the, you know, pretend ripping the Mickey sort of king. So you can sort of see maybe there's a line come from there, and, you know, it's sort of a celebration of kings, and what is Jesus if not the King of Kings, and, you know, Saturn, the original King of Kings.
But I was just going to say maybe the Christians like did, because, you know, in terms of flipping the you know, the freedmen and masters and slaves and stuff, turning that upside down, like the God of the universe, the creator of the universe, has come down to earth and died as a slave, pretty much. That's a pretty big flip.
It's the master slave kind of dichotomy, you know, and
pretty big flip.
You know, like, I mean, there's a bunch of fun things. Like, obviously, there's no mention of the Christmas tree there, but, you know, it's like in the Victorian era when things were a lot more, you know, Jesus. Like, where does the Christmas tree come from? And I can't remember his name, Prince, what's his face, who married Queen Victoria. Apparently, he brought over the Christmas tree, so it wouldn't have been a photo, or it's not like, you know, the Queen over the last, you know, Queen Elizabeth II, Queen of the Ashes. You know, with her Christmas address, it wasn't quite that, but like, she's come out with a new husband. It's a Christmas thing, and I've got the tree behind her with all the little lights in it. And then apparently everyone was just got the programming, like, oh, that's what we do now.
Yeah.
And then the following year, everyone's got Christmas trees in their house, and I think the Christmas tree itself actually dates back to, allegedly, I bet, I'm sure Germanic tribes were putting lights in trees to look like stars and stuff beforehand, and it's sort of all been taken up in the mythos. But apparently Martin Luther, famously with his complaints on the door, he was, I don't know, walking back from the pub one night, or probably the church, you know, and he was looking at, he saw, you know, the stars in the sky, and he saw the trees, and he was like, oh, this is really beautiful. And he wanted to take that home to his family. So how you have a bunch of candles lit in an evergreen tree inside your house and it be a sort of safe thing, don't know. But apparently that's where that story sort of comes
Right,
from.
yeah.
No idea what it's about other than that, though.
We're Australian. We're following the Roman winter solstice tradition.
I'm sure there is a Latin word for put another shrimp on the Barbie, mate. You know?
Hey, stop the laughing. So for anyone that's watched this far, a guy commented on one of our videos.
Probably Tim's dad.
Yeah, probably Tim's dad. He might live around the corner from me. Yet to be confirmed.
It is confirmed.
And the guy, he just said, he said, stop the laughing. That was the comment. And so our official response to the person who made this comment is, no, you stop the laughing.
No, it's worse than that. He came back and he goes, fine, I was just offering some constructive criticism or whatever. Don't take it then. It's like, but it's so funny.
My mum says I'm funny. She doesn't actually, but
I do appreciate the bloke, but I feel like you're barking up the wrong tree if you're looking for like a really serious history doco, kind of, you know, like your Tom Holland and, you know, Dom sitting there and having a chat for an hour. And
more than welcome to come on the show, Tom Holland.
Merry Christmas.
Anytime.
Merry Christmas, Tom Holland.
Personal Merry Christmas to Tom and Dom.
You're the real Spider-Man.
But yes, no, it is not a serious show, and we are not serious people.
Not anymore. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.